Like, I can't keep in time if you're going to be out of time.
I'm going to start with a bit of a public service announcement for the civilians out there.
Oh, yes.
In the last episode 41, I suggested the one-sided podcast where we release a recording of just one side of our conversation.
Oh, yes.
And people can make their own version. That now exists, and we're really encouraging you, if you've got a bit of spare time on your hands, to have a go at it. You can download a file and you'll just hear me talking and gaps where Tim's talking back at me. And I think it lasts for about 15 minutes, but you don't have to do the whole 15 minutes. But if you want to download that and make a piece of conversation, filling in the gaps where Tim's talking and send it in, we're going to put together a bit of a compilation maybe of people's contributions. And as a bit of an incentive and a reward for people who take part, I will be giving out little gifts and prizes to people who contribute.
I'm looking forward to hearing these, actually. This will be good.
Yeah. What about the gift? You excited about the idea of a gift? Maybe you'll contribute one. I know you love a bit of unmade merch and gifts and stuff. So
Indeed. Well, there's a few things laying around that I thought, hey, we should keep this and this might be a gift. This might be of interest to someone.
What was it the other day where you sent me a message like you were doing something and it had made you tear up, like you were watching something and it had made you cry? I can't remember why, but it was emotional. And then you made some comment to me, but don't worry, I captured some of the tears and we can give them as gifts to our patrons. What was that?
No. We're watching a film probably. I don't know what it was now.
I like the idea of sending some of Tim's tears as Patreon perks.
That's right.
They could do Harry Potter and they might be able to extract your memories from them as well.
Ooh, hello. That's right. They could become a particular potion, couldn't they?
They could get your PIN for the bank and stuff and clean you out.
Out of my tears?
Yeah.
I've definitely cried over that, so that's probably in there.
All right. So there we go. If you want to support us on Patreon, I'm not guaranteeing we're going to send you some of Tim's tears, but the idea has been discussed.
If I have to start pumping out tears...
If I wanted to guarantee some tears from you, Tim, now, what would be the best way to get them?
I think it would be playing the song The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics.
Oh, yeah. That's the first time I remember getting emotional at a song. I remember where I was sitting listening to it, probably on vinyl, and actually listening to the lyrics and understanding what it was about and getting a bit teary and bit burny in the throat.
Yeah. I remember a group coming to our school to do a presentation at an assembly and playing it as talking about values and what life's about.
Yeah.
And thinking, oh, that's a really great song. And then we had a discussion about it. And then 30 or 20 years later, I was working for that organisation doing those seminars in schools and so forth. But I always forgot to use The Living Years. It was prime. It would have been a lovely closure to use the same song. But
it's a song about a guy remembering his father passing away and all the things he wished he'd done while his father was still alive.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Give it a spin. That's a guaranteed tears right there. That's right.
Tearjerker.
Tearjerker.
What about a movie? You got a guaranteed tearjerker movie?
I don't know if I do. There are certain films that get me. Give me a...
Field of Dreams gets me every time, multiple times.
And I don't get that at all.
Again, that's about fathers and regret about not, regret about things you didn't do with your father when he was still alive. Spoiler.
Is it really? Isn't it about a baseball player who is wandering in the cornfields and turns out to be a ghost?
Have you ever watched Field of Dreams?
Yes, you made me watch it years ago when we were young.
Watch it, Tim, watch it again through your more mature eyes, and I think you'll see it very differently.
That's making it sound like I don't like the movie because I was immature.
I think you're at a different stage of life now. I think I certainly see it differently now. I'm not saying you're a thicko or something. I'm just saying I think if you think that film is just about baseball, you don't remember the film.
I remember watching it with you. This would have been year 11. And I'm pretty much at the same stage of life as I was at year 11. And no, in terms of films, I might give it another go. I know it moves you tremendously, but I remember not doing it for me at the time.
There are two moments in that film that get me every time.
I tell you my hesitation, and this is, again, from a memory that's flawed by, 25 years or whatever, but it involves a kind of magic, magic realism. That doesn't often... Magic takes things out of the realm of reality to me. So I know that fantasy films and all the rest of it can be incredibly moving, but they're not moving for me because I always think, oh, hang on, this isn't real. You've just broken the rules. Oh, it's magic. Oh, okay. So that's, not that it breaks the spell for me. No pun intended. When something like that happens.
By the way, what a great idea for a podcast. Things that make me cry.
Things that make me cry. Yes, it's very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a film. I feel like there's something obvious and I don't get it.
I can name loads of films that make me cry all the time. Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo, wow. It's a good film, isn't it? It's really well made.
When he goes up and asks for to hug his dad in front of all his friends. He used to hate his dad hugging him and show him affection. And at the end, he makes a point of saying, wait, everyone, wait. And goes and gives his dad a hug in front of them all. Just kills me. There's a real dad theme here, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah. Chariots of Fire. Chariots of Fire always gets me.
Which part makes you cry in Chariots of Fire? I mean, I love Chariots of Fire, but crying.
2 bits. I get stirred when Eric Liddell falls over and wins, but that's not for emotional reasons. That's just because it's an awesome athletic moment.
Yeah.
I like when Eric Liddell wins the 400 meters at the end at the Olympics and he gets the letter from Jackson Schultz showing him respect. And it's just him running the 400 with that great speech. And the music gets you. And you're on such a high when he wins that race. And then they're at the end they're doing like a victory parade and they all become friends at the end. Oh, the last 10 minutes of Chariots of Fire is pretty good.
I don't want to let this moment go without. I feel like there's a film I've forgotten. Name some films, man.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No.
Star Wars.
No.
What are good tear-jerking films? Films where people die at the end are always good for that.
Hang on. I'm Googling films that make you cry.
Oh, I'm Googling tearjerker films.
What
Films that make you... Oh, here's one. Marley and Me. If Marley and Me is a guaranteed cry.
Oh, really? I haven't seen Marley and Me.
Oh, don't watch that. Up, the first minute of Up is good.
I've never seen Up, and people keep telling me that I look like the guy in Up.
Yeah, you do. So, yeah, Up, and the end of Up as well is also a tearjerker. The very start and the very end of Up are good.
Yeah, right, okay.
Some of these ones on the list I don't agree with, but Dead Poet Society, does that get you?
It does. I mean, I remember seeing it the first time. It wasn't tears, but it was almost tears of inspiration. I was so overcome.
Forrest Gump when he's doing his speech to Jenny at the tree.
Oh, yes. I love that. Jenny, he's so smart. And about his son. That's a lovely line. That's a beautiful line.
Good Will Hunting?
No, Good Will Hunting I quite like, but I don't love. It doesn't do it for me the same way. I really love, this is quite not, I don't think it made me cry, but I loved Boyhood. Did you see the film Boyhood that was filmed over?
I have seen it.
Yeah, it moved over 12 years. Oh, gosh. That was a staggering film. I was so moved by that. It's not really a tearjerker, but it was staggering film watching this boy. That made me want to, do like youth work again and stuff.
The Fault in Our Stars, the book made me cry, and I think I probably cried at the film as well.
I know a film that made me cry.
Yeah.
Inside Out. The end of Inside Out when sadness is allowed to take over. I don't know. I don't even know what that film is. Oh, really? Oh, this is I don't think it's a Pixar, but I think it's...
yeah, okay. I'm looking at the pictures of it now. Yeah, it's like an animated film.
It's a very clever film. It all happens inside a little girl's head. All the different emotions, and you see what's going on. And they've created a whole world in there, and it's really very clever. Very clever.
The animated films are good, aren't they? Like, look, most of the Toy Story films get you.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, number 3 got me, that's for sure, when he passed them on. I've not seen them before yet, but...
I didn't like 4 as much as the first 3, but it was still very good.
Yeah, they are very good. They're very funny too. So there we go.
Yep. All right. Tearjerkers, the Tearjerker Podcast. Tearjerker's a good name.
It could. It could branch out in... It's the songs, it's the books, films, poems... That's kind of becomes a different kind of genre, though, doesn't it, really?
If you cry at a poem, I think you may be being a bit of a poser. Oh, I always weep when I read poetry.
If unless you're reading it aloud at a particular occasion, in which case the occasion really is doing it to you, isn't it?
Like a funeral or something, yeah.
It's just sitting at home wearing a beret and crying over a poem.
Yeah, if someone's reading a poem at a funeral, I'm not going to call out from the back row, "You poser!"
Brady. The poems, literally, a line can do it to you, can resonate, but to jerk tears, there needs to be some context that you're bringing to it. A novel can create that, that's for sure. Yeah, no, it's a good idea, man. It came out of the blue, that one.
It wasn't even an idea. I was just remembering you capturing your tears for patrons, and it just came from that. But anyway, good one.
Harvesting my tears is actually what's referred.
Harvesting Tim's tears. All right. So I've got a few ideas today. I've still got 3 more ideas that I had on my list. Obviously, I'm not going to get through all of them today, but should I do one or do you want to do one?
Well, if you've got 3, I've got 1. So why don't you knock one of yours off and then we'll get to mine.
All right, now let's get mine out of the way before we get to the serious business of Tim's ideas.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me think about which one to start with. Let's start with one that's maybe not as good, but I've somehow been taken by it. It's called what's it called? What am I going to call it?
I've given up naming my podcasts. I'm only going to present ideas and you can name them.
All right, this podcast is called Things Called Shell.
Right.
Or Things with Shells. Things with Shells? The Shell Podcast? I don't know. But basically, every episode has to involve shells.
Okay. I literally have nothing to say. Please keep talking. That's so random.
Let me tell you some things that some of the episodes could be about. All right? You could have an episode all about snails, turtles, crabs.
Oh, okay.
Taco shells. People called Michelle who you call Shell. Clams, mussels and oysters. Shell service stations. Shell companies and corporations. Shell structures and architecture. Eggshells. Electron shells. Nutshells. Shelling peas. There are all sorts of computing terms involving the word shell. The shell game where you use 3 shells and you've got to follow the ball, what one's it under. There's a movie called Shell. There was a doo-wop band from New York in the olden days called the Shells. There are 3 places in the world called Shell. Shotgun shells, artillery shells. There are 8 people listed on Wikipedia with the surname Shell. Shell coverage, shell defense in American football. Shell suits and shell tracksuits. Need I go on? I hope you say no, because that's the end of my list.
All right. I feel like you reading out that list was a lovely podcast episode. But you... Well, what's your next trick? No, that's...
Brady reads lists.
Shell.
Do you have any shells in your house?
We don't have any shells from the beach. When I was young, we did, and I used to love holding them up to my ear to listen to the ocean in them.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favourite childhood memories. There were seashells in our childhood bathroom that my mum had put there, and when I realised you could hear the ocean by putting it up to your ear, like to me that was black magic.
Yeah, that was good. What shells do we have? Do you remember there were some kids that had like a sand pit that was like a shell on one side and it opened up like a clam and it was...
Oh, yeah, those big garish plastic ones.
Yeah, and there was a pool on one side and a sand pit on the other.
I love that that's what comes into your head. Were you jealous of kids that had those shell sandpits?
No, I feel like they came a bit after that when I'd already grown up. I actually felt a bit sorry, like, oh, that's a pretty small sandpit. Like, I had a much better cool one than that.
Did you, have you given your girls a sandpit at any time over the years?
No. They've played in them and love it, out at parks and things, but we've never had one at home.
I mean, they're just wee traps, aren't they?
They are wee traps, that's right. Yeah.
So I have seashells. I have 2 seashells maybe in the bathroom, but I'm actually looking at a shell in my office right now, but it's an artillery shell.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a huge artillery shell that I keep coins in.
Did you find it and buy it, or was it given to you as a gift, or?
You get them in second-hand stores all the time in England, like World War II shells.
Yep.
So I've just got such a big, brass shell that would have been, obviously the projectile's no longer in it, but the part that would have held all the explosive powder is sitting here, like big golden brass cylinder, and I just throw all my coins into it at the end of the day,
No, that's cool.
I'll put a picture of it on the in the show notes.
I remember I was with a friend once, and we were in a store which had a lot of old things like that, but it also had some arty, modern art, and some old nostalgic commercial pieces, signs and things like that. And he bought a big plastic model of the Shell lamb, from the Shell service station. Oh, no, hang on. Is that the Shell service station? Or is it
no, that's Golden Fleece.
Oh, yes. Of course, the shell is just a shell, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is.
That's right.
The genius of the Shell logo suddenly occurs to Tim. So it's called Shell, and their logo's a shell. Next time I drive past, I'm going to go in and tell them that.
Let's go. Full marks marketing department. We just got some feedback.
Maybe they haven't realised yet. They should capitalise on it somehow.
They should start using artillery shells as their logo. That'll go down well. But I thought it was a really cool sort of thing to buy, this big plastic piece of commercial, like a big plastic sheet, and putting it up at home as a piece of modern art.
Worst episode ever of my Shell podcast is when Tim comes on and talks about his friend that had the Golden Fleece logo from. That has nothing at all to do with shells.
I come in and talk about my friend Sarah, who, would like to have been called Michelle.
Do you like white eggs or brown eggs with the eggshells? Do people still buy white eggs very much?
What do you mean? Do you mean for Easter?
No, eggs. Like, eggs that chickens lay?
Indeed, yes.
Do you like ones with white shells or brown shells?
I don't mind as long as they're big. I'm quite fussy about my eggs. Like, I have eggs for breakfast every morning, right? And you buy them and you bring them home, and all of them in the supermarket say, that we never, buy from battery hens. So you always want to get them free range and good quality ones. And they all say large, or now they say extra large or massive, and you just imagine these big chooks roaming around a paddock, dropping these massive eggs, and then you get them home and you're like, oh, that's just regular size. That's not extra large.
It's just inflation, isn't it? I love I don't mind as long as it's big. You're so refined. Tim, would you like some chocolate? Oh, yes, please. Oh, what kind of chocolate would you like me to get? Oh, I don't care what kind, as long as it's big.
It's not that's not the case. It's an egg. You want
Dude, I don't care how the chickens were treated, as long as they laid big eggs.
Give me big egg. Well, no, see, that's the thing. I like the ethical side, but the ethical side combined with the size is just like an incredibly satisfying breakfast experience.
It is. It is, yeah. How would you like your steak done, sir? I don't mind, as long as it's big. Pulling up at McDonald's. Can I take your order? What's the biggest thing you've got? I'll have 2 of them.
Do you reckon chooks brag to each other about their eggs?
I once laid an egg this big.
That's right.
Ah, rubbish. Don't listen to her. She always says that. She never laid an egg that big. I once laid an egg the size of a house.
I wonder if like doing a 2-yolker is like an incredibly rare experience. Like, you wouldn't believe what I did. Oh.
I wonder if they know. Oh, that felt like a 2-yolker.
Yeah, maybe. That's right. You never know.
I don't have eggs enough to have ever gotten a 2-yolker.
Oh, I have. Oh, yeah.
How often do you get them?
Oh, like once every 2 or 3 years.
Oh, right. They're that rare.
They're very rare, yes. It's a very, it's a real red letter day.
What do you do when you get one?
You literally just go, oh, it's got 2 yolks, and then move on. Like,
well, that sure sounds like a red letter day.
You don't take the day off or anything. Just
it's a national holiday.
Go buy a lotto ticket. Woohoo!
The Prime Minister tells everyone they don't have to go to work that day because Tim just got a 2-yolker.
We're having a report.
You don't like take a picture and send it into the newspaper or something?
Next time I get one, I'll send you a photo. I promise.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell it's legit a 2-yolker? Like, could I easily fake a 2-yolker by just putting 2 eggs into a cup?
Or, well, into a cup you might, because that's not a fair playing field. Like, you've got to put them in a frying pan so they can go,
okay.
You can see how close they are, like little buddies.
It would be hard to fake a 2-yolker fried egg.
I think it would be. I mean, you could put another one on top, but they also are a bit smaller. and they're sort of nuzzling up to one another as well. So they're not perfectly round, I find. You could try and fake it, but I, of course, won't believe you now, even if in 2 months' time you get one. I'll be like, well, you just
I
fake
don't know
it.
much about how eggs and baby chickens work. Is a two-yoker what would have, if it had been fertilised, would have been potentially twins?
I guess so, although it's inside the egg. So I don't know. There's no rooster around, then obviously there's no chicks that are going to come from it. So
No.
But-
No, I mean, I said potential twins. I mean, this is just showing the value of my Shell podcast. You know, we're already deep in the weeds here of like whether two yolked eggs were potential twin chickens. I would love to see someone who like actually understands how eggs and chickens work listening to this at the moment, just like slapping their face, going, "Oh my god, could these guys be more stupid?"
well, just because we don't know the answer about whether two yolks inside one egg could potentially have left that shell, formed another shell.
I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions here, but when the Shell podcast starts, all will be revealed.
So Royal Dutch Shell, Shell Australia, Shell near me, Shell Korea. Every time, if I Google Shell, it's all related to the oil company. That's interesting.
I sense now is the perfect time to mention today's episode sponsor.
Oh,
It is not Shell,
no.
obviously.
Not officially, anyway.
Not officially. It's Hover.
Hover, yes.
Hover, the place to go for registering domain names. Get 10% off your first Hover purchase by going to hover.com/unmade or using the promo code unmade. Hover is the place to go to register domains for current projects, future projects, maybe projects about eggshells. Tim, let's jump on the Hover website right now and have a look what's available. Maybe make a cheeky purchase while we're here.
All right, let's do it. Hover, whoops.
Hover.com. Make sure you use /unmade if you're a civilian, because then Hover will see that you came from here and think, oh, Tim and Brady, those guys are amazing salesmen. Let's sponsor another 20 episodes.
Or you can go to timhine.ninja, which is the first thing that comes up when I Google Hover/unmade.
Yeah, you could go to timhine.ninja, which Tim has registered and has diverted to hover.com/unmade, because if you've got a domain that you're not yet using and you want it for future reference, you can divert it wherever you like really, really easily. You could divert it to your Twitter or your Facebook or another website. Or that's what I do. If I register a domain that's not yet ready for action, I'll just divert it to my personal website or something. I mean, there's a lot of Shell websites available here.
Oh, I was looking at this. turtleshellservices.com. If you're in the turtle shell business, you need to grab that. Shell.hiphop. Man, you didn't even mention the hip-hop dimensions of Shell.
No. Shell.science, if you wanted to make a project that's all about two yolked eggs and other egg-related science. Shell.science, yeah.
Shell.rodeo. I mean, the possibilities are endless there.
A shell rodeo. It's not the ideal pastime for a shell. If you're into shells, go and check out shell-related domains. If you're into something else... Eggs? What about eggs? What egg, like just EGG egg, what egg domains are still available? Because I always think short domains must be harder to get. Egg.business. You can get egg.business.
Yeah, wow.
Egg.kitchen, egg.restaurant. These are all available.
Egg.church. There's a name for a church.
Yeah, because of like birth and, eggs always are very...
New life. Yeah. That's right. There we go.
Very wholesome. Eggs are very wholesome. All right, well, anyway... Check them out, people. Go to hover.com/unmade and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. The domains are already very reasonably priced. Some of them you can get dirt cheap. I've already got loads of domains registered with Hover. Great website, great business. I honestly use them all the time. I sincerely recommend them to people in my life, even when I'm not doing a sponsorship read on a podcast. Our thanks to Hover for supporting us here.
Thanks, Hover.
You got an idea then, Tim?
I do have an idea. It needs a bit of work, I think, or that's another way of saying I think there are many dimensions to this and you can workshop it with me. I'm going to hold off on trying to think of a name because I'm useless at that.
Yes.
But
I think that's for the best.
And you've taken Shell now, so I can't use that. But my idea essentially looks in as comprehensive detail as possible a person's life. Like, I remember there's many biographies that are written about people. And many people, like American presidents, have many books. And as the years go by, they become fatter and thicker. And I know that there's a series on Lyndon Johnson, which goes to 4 volumes, massive volumes, incredible detail about him. And I was actually thinking, I wonder how much detail. Like, what if you could comprehensively analyze a person's life? And then I was thinking, maybe a podcast. What if a person actually used a podcast, not just to interview someone for an hour, but actually to interview them about everything, like to cover everything, like start at the beginning and basically go through the years of your life and cover as much as you possibly can to get it all out there, every living memory that you possibly have.
So in your idea, as you're putting it, this person is still alive and they're actually the interview subject. They're the ones kind of...
That's right.
You are getting the information from the source.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So the person could be very good. They would have to be very skillful at sort of helping the person to remember more and more information. Remember grade 6 at school or whatever, that year, and you're like, well, I don't know, I had this teacher. And then you start to sort of help them to, oh, look at that photo. Oh, yes, that reminds me of this and that reminds me. And so layer upon layer of, not infinite, but enormous detail starts to pour out. So you start this comprehensive exploration of this person's life, which may or may not catch up to reality because as the years
real
go.
time, it gets to a point where it's like, what are you doing now? I'm scratching my knee. Now what are you doing?
That's right, answering your question about scratching my knee. That's right.
How would you choose your subject? Because obviously someone who's really, really, you couldn't get Tom Hanks because he's like really busy doing stuff.
We just immediately go to Tom Hanks as like the obvious person.
But it also couldn't be like an absolute nobody because that, unless they're an amazing person, because that would be like, who would your subject be?
Well,
if I said, okay, Tim, I'm going to give you $1 million to make it right now, I'm commissioning it.
Yep.
Who would you get as your subject?
I would be tempted to find a nobody, but who's of a certain type. That is, a person that people, you know what I mean, are fascinated by because they are so ordinary. Even if you've got someone who's lived an extraordinary life, after a while you've sort of covered all the extraordinary bits, right? And you need to go behind that. And so really it becomes an exploration of ordinary things. So it might be better to start with someone who, for all intents and purposes, lived an ordinary life, a very plain life, but then you start to unpack the enormous, you know what I mean, interesting, the memories and the experiences and the moments and things like that inside someone who might be, like, you could call the podcast Your Average Joe or something like that. You get to know them enormously well.
Would you hold back a few twists, like say they're in prison, but you don't find that out until episode 50 or something? Or?
Oh, yeah. See, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, you don't know the details of where they're at now. And as you go through in a comprehensive way, that's right, you're forever guessing ahead.
Because you always like a twist, don't you? Like suddenly you find out they committed a murder or something. It's like, oh my goodness, we've just spent 5 episodes talking about your childhood interest in seashells, and only now do I find out that you killed a man, sort of thing. Yeah. Or we find out it's someone that we do know, but like it is Tom Hanks, it turns out, but we didn't know. We called him Tommy and started way back at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like Tom Hanks didn't make a movie we all knew about until his 20s. And so, I don't know, there could be some sort of twist like that that's ultra positive or negative. Yeah.
So, very comprehensive. Over a long period, a massive long project. I like this idea.
Or you could do it with a few different characters, and each episode's a different character, and you have your favourites, and then as time goes by, their lives start interweaving. Like at first, it's just 3 different people, and you're thinking, oh yeah, I always enjoy. Like it's called Tom, Dick, and Harry or something.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I always enjoy the Tom episodes and not so much the Harry ones or whatever. And then and then suddenly like their lives start crossing over, and you realise, hang on, these lives are intertwined. I didn't see that coming. And
yeah, or 2 brothers, or a guy and a girl who get together or have been.
Oh yeah, that's good too. Yeah,
you can see their lives, and when they finally meet, that would be interesting. Particularly if there was someone who they knew for many years but didn't get together, or were close, or in you know what I mean, the same school but then married later on or something.
Or imagine but then later on they get divorced. So you're like, at the start you think they're strangers, and then you realise they're together, and you think, oh, I never saw that coming, and then you find out they're apart again, and all sorts. It could go all over the place.
It could. Yeah. Oh, that would take a long time.
Good idea.
Back to you, man.
All right. My next idea is called I'm selling everything I own on eBay.
This is great. I love it.
And the idea of this is basically you liquidate your life on eBay. So
Yes.
every single possession you own, you sell on eBay piece by piece. And each episode is about the object you sold that week. And I think this would be quite fun because the episode would have like a natural arc to it. Like, okay, this is what the object was. This is the research I did about it before doing my listing, and I saw who else had sold things like it and how much I think it might be worth.
Yes.
This is the story of the object. This is what happened when I listed it. This is how much interest I got. These are the questions I was asked by potential buyers. This is the price it actually got in the end. And you just gradually liquidate your life. I think it would be, obviously it's a bit of a performance piece, but I think it would be really interesting to see how you value what you have compared to what the open market values what you have.
Of course, that's brilliant because, of course, it could be happening in real time. So as the podcast grows, people will want to buy it because of the novelty and their connection to the podcast. So,
well, I have thought about this because I think this is a flaw of the idea.
Oh.
I think this corrupts the idea. Because if the podcast became really popular, obviously, yeah, that the price would be distorted by this. So I think you would have to release the podcast after you'd done it, or you would have to somehow
do it anonymously.
Change the account you were selling with all the time or something. I think if everyone got to know you and what you were selling and were bidding on the items, I think it would lose its realness. And I would want to find ways around that problem. Because otherwise people would be like, oh, I want to buy one of the items from Brady's sale because it's this famous podcast.
Which
and then
looked at from a different perspective is genius because it's basically if you want to get a heap of more money for your stuff that it's worth, you could create a podcast and talk about it.
That is true, but that's not my idea.
No. I think this is a great idea. I like this idea.
Yeah.
There's obviously a whole bunch of possessions early on that are precious. You know, might say, oh, here's a lovely sculpture or here's a favourite mug and that sort of thing.
Harley Davidson bookends.
That's, well, obviously they wouldn't be sold. But the...
Do you still have them?
I'm trying to think if Mum listens to my podcast still or not. Let's just say...
I sense a Patreon perk coming here. This week's Patreon perk are a vial of Tim's tears and a Harley Davidson bookend.
Look, let's just say they're out there somewhere.
They're bringing great pleasure to someone.
They've gone to live on the farm.
All right.
I don't think they made the transition when we moved our workplace from when we built a new building at the college and moved across. I'm not sure they made it across. So,
what's something of yours that, not including obvious things like, you know, cars and houses and like major assets, what's something of yours that you think would fetch a pretty penny that you might not expect? Well, you know, that you would expect, but like, what's a good one?
For pure value, so nothing attached to sentiment or anything like that?
Yeah, just what's something that would deliver, or like that you would make a good profit on for what it cost you to get to what it might be worth now, you know? What's going to be one of your showpiece items?
I don't know. There's a few things that I've had handed down to me that I'm not sure what their value is.
Right.
There's a few unique sort of coffee grinders and things like that, and they could be antiques or they could be, you know, nothing much at all.
Absolute tat.
Yeah, sort of Dutch.
Your dad's handkerchiefs?
Well, that's right. You know, following the last podcast, I went and got one of those. I was polishing my boots and I was needing something to sort of, you know, do the final wipe down. And I asked my wife, do we have a soft towel? And she literally said, why don't you use one of your dad's old handkerchiefs?
Had she listened to the podcast or?
No. So in the end, I did go to the pile and I looked through and I found one that still had a very recent tag on it, like it's like a bandana or something that was born, and I just ended up using it, and it's gone into the little box that I have with shoe polish and stuff. So I have started filtering through, but
I can't decide if that's really nice that you have that link like with your dad's handkerchief when you're polishing your shoes, or it's really disrespectful that you're rubbing your shoes.
Well, I know it's not one of Dad's that I'm using on my shoes, but
Okay.
it is also a high calling. I got nice boots and stuff, so it's kind of like feels like an honourable thing to be polishing your boots too.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
yeah, but they're not going to get anything on eBay, that's for sure. I don't think I have anything of value in that respect. I'm not sure I do. I have a few signed like LPs and things like that.
What's your best signed record?
What's the best signed? Oh, no, actually, I've got a Harry Connick Jr. signed record, which is not going to be worth very much.
Wouldn't that take the value down having him deface it?
I've got some first edition books and I've got some signed books. So I've got some C.S. Lewis first edition books, and they're worth a bit. They're worth
nice,
for a book, a few $100s, that's for sure. And I've got a few things that are signed, like Paul Auster novels and things like that I've bought because they're favourite novels in my favourite author. But they first edition sorts of things. But again, they're not massive. But you've got like space memorabilia and things like that, don't you? Like quite staggering.
I've got so many signed astronaut pieces of memorabilia, and a lot of those astronauts have died now. So
yeah,
and some good signed sports memorabilia. Oh, I've got all sorts of stuff, and all my old collector cards and things like that. Maybe some of them are worth something. I don't know. But it'd be more than what the money you make out of it. Like, it's not like about making money, is it? It's about the story.
No, absolutely.
Like, so many of these items have stories attached to them.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you could talk about that and then it goes on. That's why I guess you'd have to do it before the episode, wouldn't you? But if you don't want to draw attention to it, you put it on eBay, see how it went, and then...
You can't meddle with the experiment by... You'd almost want to do it after the fact, or you'd have to be somehow be anonymizing what you're doing. But I think it would be really good fun.
I think that's a good idea.
It'd also be fun selling. It'd also be fun seeing what you could get on eBay for like your worthless stuff. Like what surprises you'd get. Like if you put all your old pairs of socks on eBay, I'm selling 10 pairs of used socks.
Yeah.
Would someone pay 10 cents for them?
That's right.
I don't know.
Will they? That's right. And you can't do like reverse, like negative money. Like I'll pay you and postage to allow me to send this to you, just to get rid of it.
Another fun part of the podcast would be, if you could, and if the people were willing, tracking down the people who bought it and asking them to tell you why they bought it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like say, oh, hi, thanks for buying it. I'm actually doing a bit of a story about the things I sell. And a couple of the people might say, yeah, I'll tell you why I'm buying it. Oh, yeah, Brady, I'm buying your signed space picture because I was always obsessed with that astronaut as a boy, and I've always wanted to, I once met that astronaut, or I think people, the people buying would have a story. By the way, people, at this point, I do not know that this idea exists, but I know that it might. And you're welcome to email us and contact us and say a podcast idea exists. Oh, there's already a Shell podcast on that. That's cool. We like hearing about it, and we don't claim that every single idea we talk about has been researched to the nth degree, and we've checked that nothing exists like it anywhere in the world. It is an original idea to us, but it doesn't mean we had it first.
It's absolutely original. In fact, that's important to say. I never look up anything, so.
No,
it's purely an idea.
Because if you look hard enough, you'll always find something, and then we'll have no unmade ideas to talk about.
Yeah, and it also takes the interest out of talking about it too, because you're like, oh, I know this is out there, and
yeah.
No, I in fact, I rarely go browsing podcasts at all. I sort of have what I listen to, and I look for an interview with a person. So I search through a person's name because I want to hear an interview with them or something. But I don't go... Do you just go browsing podcasts?
No, not often. I've got my 10 or so that I like, and I stick pretty much with them.
Yeah. Hang on. I've just thought of a great idea, and I just need to write it down before I forget. Track.
Are you actually writing down ideas for future episodes?
I am, yeah.
Good stuff. I'm proud of you.
I was about to say, hey, that's a good idea. And then I thought, nah, I'm looking at the clock and I'm going...
Save it.
I'm going to bank this one.
Yeah.
Put it on the...
I know. I've had one during this episode as well that I've banked for future.
I'm not throwing my pearl before swine, so to speak.
No, you don't do it. Keep it. Don't let it get lost in the torrent of brilliant ideas I'm having today.
It's an avalanche. I love your example.
I've got.
If Shell already exists, don't tweet us and tell us it already exists. It's a Shell.
So I've got one more idea. There's been a long-running thing between Tim and I a long-running disagreement between us about whether or not Tim can play the guitar. Because Tim claims to be able to play the guitar. I always think he's just one of those guys who owns guitars and strums them occasionally because he thinks it makes him look good. So anyway, just lately, Tim has taken to sending me little videos of himself playing his guitar, which he's probably got out lately just to, for fun. And I have to say, the little videos I've been getting have kind of reinforced what I think, because they're always just like a little section.
Well, that's it. I'm not going to send you a whole song. I send you a 3-second riff, and you've got to guess the riff.
Yeah, okay.
That's the game.
Okay. So my idea for a podcast is called Jammin with Tim. Not with a G. It's Jammin with an N little apostrophe. Jammin with Tim. And this is a podcast where Tim just gets out his guitar and just works on his music and talks things through, and we just have a chat and we just jam. So, of course, this would require Tim to have his guitar in the office.
Which is where I keep my guitar, actually. I do.
Oh, really?
I do keep a guitar at the office just so I can, if I'm thinking, I just go sit in the chair and pluck away a little bit, and then...
Does that mean we're going to have a David Brent moment here and you're going to just get out the guitar for us?
Well, I just may happen...
All right.
Can you hear that fuzz?
Yes, that's the amp, is it?
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jammin with Tim. With alleged guitarist Tim Hine. So, are we going to get a bit of smoke on the water to start with?
Man, you're really starting with the basics.
Come on, that's what everyone plays when they first pick up a guitar. Yeah.
That's even, you know how to play that, I think, don't you? Like
No, I can't play. I naturally hold a guitar. If you give me a guitar, I hold it as what I believe a left-hander would hold it. That's how I feel like I'm not a left-handed person, but my instinct when I hold a guitar is to hold the neck in my right hand and have my left hand for the playing. And I have no idea why that is. I think that shows how non-proficient I am with a guitar, that just feels right to me.
No, that's all right. Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, there's been a few good left-handed guitarists over the years. So
Paul McCartney, my birthday sharer, is a left-handed guitarist.
Yeah, I mean, he's more a bass player, but sure. You can...
Yeah.
Getting a bit desperate there, calling him Paul McCartney. Come on.
Oh. Hey, this is Jammin with Tim. I think we've set the bar pretty low. So,
how does Jammin with Tim work? What happens here? Do I?
I don't know. Are you working on any songs at the moment, Tim?
Well, when you're stuck at home a lot, the temptation is to think that you could record an album, but recording an album requires a little bit more than, like a couple of times a day wandering into the bedroom for 20 minutes just to sort of learn the new, Stephen Malcolm song or something.
Worked for Mozart.
No,
so
that's right.
Do you want to play a few things and see if I recognise any of them?
See if you recognise them. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. Oh, hang on. Oh, hang on. I actually stuffed that up. So
Yeah.
Oh, I've got the fingers wrong. You can edit this in later on with Mark Knopfler, obviously.
Yeah.
I actually just learnt this week. I figured this out and sent it to you.
I do know that one.
Hang on.
Everyone listening's going, Brady was right.
I'm not much of a Dire Straits fan, really, but I learnt that a little bit to send it to you.
I do. That's obviously the first guitar solo from Money for Nothing. I was a big fan of that album, Brothers in Arms, when I was a kid. That was actually the first album I ever bought as a cassette. And about a year ago, I was doing a bit of running and creating a playlist, and I put that song that I hadn't listened to for years on it, and I had the biggest smile on my face while I was listening to it, because it's just such a decadent, like, 80s rock and roll song. Like, it's so extravagant as a song. I love it.
It's good. It's got Sting on there too. And
yeah,
that's a good album. I think this
is a great album.
When I met you, I think this was the only album you owned, and I literally do. I remember you saying it was the only one that was worth having, or something like that. And but I'd never. Of course, I knew the singles, but I'd never listened to it. But it was only about 5 or 6 years ago that I listened to all the other tracks, and a whole bunch of beautiful songs on there.
Yeah, I think it's only got 9 songs on it, but they're all crackers.
Brothers in Arms is beautiful at the end.
Brothers in Arms is great. So Far Away From Me is a great song. Walk of Life is quite a fun song. Your Latest Trick is a great song.
Yeah, Your Latest Trick is a good song. Yeah. Why Worry? I love those. They're very, very soft, sort of beautiful, delicate, lovely songs. So yeah. But it's not really my type of music, but I do. That's a good one. There we go. That one was for you.
Thank you very much. This is Jammin' with Tim.
Why do you keep talking like you're an FM radio announcer?
Oh, what was that?
Oh, that was just me. That was something original I'm working on, man.
All right.
I mean, one of the criticisms that you gave early on, this is when I was 16, and someone would play a little riff and you'd be like, no one ever plays songs, you just play the little riff. And you never really quite understood that's part of the enjoyment of guitar, is actually just learning, going, oh, I can play that now. Or when you hear a song, you want to go, I want to know how to play that. How do I play that? And so you figure it out.
Like when someone plays football or soccer at the park, they don't go and like stand on their own for 10 minutes and run up and down a wing. They just want to shoot goals.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. But also, like you always asked, you always say you never play the whole song. You only play that riff. And you seem to have not understood that most songs are the riff repeated over and over all the way through with only slight variations. So playing the riff is kind of it, and then you play it and you play the verse, chorus, and then that's it. So you sort of play that, and that's like the sugar hit, and then unless you're with a band actually performing, that's it. You want to move on to something else. You sort of figure it out.
Does that mean being a guitarist in a band is quite boring? Just playing riff over and over again?
Oh, no, because it's enormously fun to play, but you sort of but when you're with a band, it's enjoyable following the song through with someone singing and all that kind of stuff. And I sometimes play and sing myself, particularly on the acoustic guitar at home. And it's just enjoyable to be inside a song that you love. It's like, wow, now I can play that. You feel like you embody the song a little bit.
Does your family like it when you play the guitar and sing?
Define like.
Do they ask you to stop?
They come up and whenever I start playing, they come up and interrupt with questions, like just about other stuff around the house.
Like, could you please stop?
Well, and I think there are some fun songs that I've written for the girls over the years. You know what I mean? Like, they really love it. And so that's fun. So I still play them every now.
Like Money for Nothing.
That's right. Here's a little ditty I wrote for you. And I used to have when they were real little, it was time for milk in their bed. So I used to have I wrote a song called the Milk Song. And it just goes, this is the milk song over and over with a cool little riff. And then
does that mean it would be like, okay, girls, it's time for bed. You girls get into bed, and then you like roll in the amps and everything, and like.
Yeah. All right, girls, here's the milk song. Yeah.
Milk.
It's a death metal song. That's right. Oh, dear.
Hang on, I'm just going to call Barry. He's going to bring his drum kit over.
That's right, it's a full performance. No, it's a song that's up there with some of Phoebe's finest work on Friends. You know, her guitar work.
This morning you sent me the little opening part of Zoo Station, which I quite enjoyed. Can you give me a bit of that?
Oh, well, that's very, very easy. That's why I was sending that to you one bit at a time. It just go.
Yeah.
And then the drums.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
That just goes on and on like that for hours.
Tim, I'm going to say that's the first thing I've ever heard you play that made me think you're a bit cool.
Wow, really?
I just think that I just like that little what is that? Is that like a lick or something? What is that?
Yeah, well, it's the main
the
riff, that bit. Yeah. I can do most of Achtung Baby. In fact, U2's music is very, very easy. Edges are very easy.
Can you do Mysterious Ways?
Well, it's no, because you need a special pedal for that. That's all in the sound. And that's the funny thing about the Edge is that lots of his stuff is very easy to play, but he has amazing rigs that make it sound like it's a unique sound. That's what it is. It's a lovely sound. Yeah, I can play Achtung Baby all the way through on just an acoustic guitar, and it sounds very empty a lot of the time, but some of the songs are still very good.
Play more of Zoo Station.
All right. Well, after that bit, it goes up to he goes. And then he goes up a little bit higher and he goes,
At first then, that sounded a bit like you were going to play Mr. Brightside. Can you do that Mr. Brightside bit?
Mr. Brightside? I don't know Mr. Brightside, no.
That would be cool. It sounded like you were about to do it then.
I can look it up. Mr. Brightside tabs. Here we go. Oh, at the start of it, you mean, where he goes...
Yeah, that cool bit at the start.
Intro and first verse. What is it? 16, 15... hang on, I'll just learn this. It'll just take...
This is Jammin with Tim.
12, 13, 14. Who's he got? That one's 18. He sort of seems to go around like that.
You're getting there. This is Jammin with Tim.
Learning songs in real time. That's not a bad idea. And then he just goes down and down.
Yeah, a bit of work to do on that one, man. I want that one by the end of the week.
My favourite ever riff is by the band Sonic Youth, which people may or may not be familiar with, but they have a song called Teenage Riot, and it starts off with really, really, really sort of lovely sort of intro. And they go on like that for a while, and then they go... And it goes on from there.
How are we going to end the show? How are you going to see us out? Can you see us out to end the show? Can we hear a bit of milk?
Okay.
Okay. That was Milk by Tim Hine, and you've been listening to Jammin' with Tim.
It's the Milk song.